We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brewer? Here. Trustee Grant? Trustee Tucker?
Here.
Trustee Tate? Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Lamont?
Okay, so I have a few presentations today, so it may be a little lengthy, but we have to get through these. So our first presentation is of the comprehensive plan and recommendations from the zoning board and planning commission. Testa Associates and Scott is going to, Steve is going to go over the plan you got in front, and you got any questions after we go through it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. I want to take this time to thank Scott Goldstein and his team from Testa and Associates, their entire team, which is ACOM and for ourselves, CDC. We've been working on this plan for over a year. Well, a little over a year. Also, Stephen from CMAP. They've led us through some very difficult planning decisions and made the process a lot easier for us. So many opportunities for the community engagement have gone into this plan to make it a success and offer the most comprehensive plan we have compiled before you this evening. As you know, Sauk Village and many other communities and communities could not get by without the dedication of volunteers. I want to thank those who played a vital role in this plan. So many thanks to our zoning board of commissioners, Charles Pondexter, our chairman, Lee Littleton, Jack Todd, Sharon Novak, Marcus Atkins, Emmett Farmer, and Darrell Coney. Especially our advisory committee members who attended many meetings and community events throughout this last year. Marcus Atkins, Juanita Burgess, Alvina Casera, Arnold Coleman, Emmett Farmer, Charles Pondexter again, Dr. Donald Lee, Tammy Jones, and Marvin Campbell-Cook from District 168. At the Newt, at Pazel, Pastor John Pitts, Clara Seidelman, Gene Steinmark, and Gary Sal from Lincoln. The Village of Sauk Village also wishes to extend a sincere thanks to the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning and their local technical assistance program, which allowed the village to fund this project. Funding for this project was also provided by the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transportation Administration, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Illinois Department of Transportation, the Chicago Community Trust, Cook County Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program, and the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency with a modest investment from the Village of Sauk Village. Finally, a special thank you to the residents of Sauk Village who took time out of their lives to give their input and feedback, helping direct the pathway of progress on our comprehensive plan for the next 20 years and beyond. Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees, and residents, I'm pleased to present to you the Sauk Village's 2019 Comprehensive Plan and introduce to you Mr. Scott Goldstein, Testa Associates. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I want to thank Mayor Burgess, the village board here tonight, planning commission.
Can't hear.
Is that better? Okay. All right. Scott Goldstein from Testa Associates. I want to thank George Wade, Mr. Burgess, village board tonight, planning commission advisory committee, which are those names. It has been a very efficient process. We really want to thank everyone who participated in this, particularly CMAP, Steve Ostrander, and Maggie Jar, who's working with from CMAP with the village on a regular basis. We're going to cover tonight how to use the plan. It has been some while since you've had an updated plan, so we want to make sure to let you know how to use this. It's a document. You can go right to the points that you're looking for. It's very easy to navigate in terms of economic development, transportation, etc. We're also going to talk about the implementation of that. So it has been some time. There was an update to the plan in 1999. The plan before that was from the 80s. So it has been some time. A plan is a guiding document. It is not a regulatory document, but it should be referred to on a regular basis in terms of both prioritizing actions, in terms of looking at it for your annual budget each year. Okay, as well as planning.
Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. I'll try and speak closer to the mic. Is that better? Okay, here we go. All right, so the vision of the plan is that Sauk Village is a thriving community that is home to institutions and businesses that drive our local economy, as well as families and individuals that make up our neighborhoods. We have a shared vision that is built on the collective support of our entire community, one that fosters respect and dignity, preservation of open space and natural resources, and commitment to expanding opportunities for residents and businesses. The words in this vision statement came directly from the community. Almost all these words came from different interactive exercises that we did. We put that all together into a vision statement, and that really helps guide the rest of the plan. As Joe spoke about, there was quite a bit of outreach. There were formal events. There were attending informal events, such as your annual corn and dog roast. There was wide publicity. The flyers for the meetings went to every parent in the school district, for example, as well as widely publicized through social media. Hopefully you saw some of that, took the poll. We had a couple polls as a part of this and participated. All of the meetings, like I said, were interactive group exercises, and that really led to the development of the plan. The plan starts out with land use goals. To some extent, the land use component, it ties together the entire plan. And one of the things we learned loud and clear from all of you in terms of planning for a balanced tax base to support local services. So we want to make sure that there is a broad range of uses that can pay for themselves and that can support the local services that are needed in the village. Need to meet the demand for specific land uses such as residential, commercial, industrial, open space, and community facilities. We want to promote the reuse, rehabilitation, and redevelopment of existing uses. So this was a really important thing that people really want to see the private housing market rebound, the home values to increase over time, and really thinking about how do we repair homes, how do we keep properties up to date. And that relates to the last goal, which is promoting strong, cohesive neighborhoods. This comes straight out of the Plan for Prosperity that was released about a year before this plan started by the village. There's a framework map that shows the village in different highlights of the plan. You can see areas circled such as where we are now, which we're calling the Civic Center, which would be the municipal center, the school district next door, and possibly expansion of other uses over time. And then over at Sauk Trail and I-394, we'll talk about it a little bit, but really expanding that commercial center, revitalizing it, and improving that into a new town center, as well as expansion of the logistics center just on the west side of 394, north of Sauk Trail. And then the yellow areas are the residential neighborhoods in town, and the green areas are the open space, particularly the Forest Preserve District, and small parks throughout the village. On the left, you will see the existing land use pattern. This uses the standard colors that planners use: yellow for residential, purple for industrial, dark green for open space, red for commercial. And on the right, you can see future land use. So this is shows you that overall, we're not talking dramatic changes. It's really a plan about reinvestment, redevelopment in the existing framework. We are talking about some additional uses, some additional land for industrial, some conservation-oriented residential land shown near the forest preserve that's currently unincorporated. But generally, this is a managed growth scenario of looking at orderly, efficient growth into the future to support the existing residents and businesses in the village. This on the left is another view of the same map, but it only shows the change in land uses. In Illinois, villages can plan for 1.5 miles beyond their borders. So we took a look at your neighboring communities and what they had planned and compared that to the goals of the village. And in almost all cases, these overlapping areas outside of the current boundaries, but also within the planning area of the neighboring community, were very consistent. So in almost all cases, what the plan shows for the planning area of the village of Sauk Village is consistent with recent plans that have been adopted by our neighbors. So that really leads to more orderly growth and less competition between communities. I talked a minute ago about looking at revitalization of the commercial center that you have on the north side of Sauk Trail between Jeffrey and Illinois 394. The village owns quite a bit of this land, and really we tried to look at ways to bring this back into productive use, tax-paying properties. The fire department is looking for a new location for the fire station. Right now it's on a lot that's really too small in a residential area. So this shows a new site into the future, north of Sauk Trail, access off of Jeffrey Avenue. That would then provide direct access through a full traffic signal and make it much safer for the fire trucks to be able to get out quickly and reach anywhere in the village. We are also showing some new restaurants and stores in this same area between Sauk Trail and the park space to the north. This is a long-term plan, but it shows what the predictability could be in working with developers. It will not turn out exactly the way the drawing is. The drawing is to show a concept of what can happen. It will be up to the village to try to work with the private sector to encourage investment in this area. In terms of housing proposals, in this presentation tonight, I've only highlighted some of them. All of them are in the plan. The plan is also already online and you'll be able to view. But for some of the examples of housing proposals, including acquiring, demolishing vacant and abandoned homes. This has been one of the big issues we've heard about. There might be one vacant home or two vacant homes on a block. And if that allows to persist for a long time, that affects everybody else on the block. So there are organizations called land banks. There's two that are active in this area, the South Suburban Land Bank and the Cook County Land Bank. And the plan calls for cooperating with the land banks in order to acquire those properties that are most likely very tax delinquent and bring those back into use. For example, it could become a larger yard for the property next door, or perhaps over time a new house could be built on that piece of property. Related to that is trying to recruit home builders and small developers to rehab homes, bring them back to market. Again, trying to prevent the vacant homes that you have scattered about. Educating both renters and landlords of their rights and responsibilities in the village. We've heard a lot about that in terms of making sure that everybody knows what their responsibilities are as residents or property owners. And then planning for new residential development based on market demand. So as that market solidifies and starts to grow again, there is room around Sauk Village for smart new developments, conservation-oriented developments that could provide really high quality of life. A lot of people move to Sauk Village because it's surrounded by more open space. So you really have that excellent transportation access as well as proximity to forest preserves, open space. And so that is something that could really be continue to be marketed. Economic development is a major part of the plan as well. And like I mentioned before, trying to promote employment and a strong tax base is critical. You do have advantages that other communities don't. You not only have an excellent road network, you have direct rail access to the best rail network in the country. You are along the I-80 corridor, and so it's very desirable. If you look at the strongest economic growth currently in the Chicago region, it's really the industrial marketplace, and you have available land for that. So not only have you had recent investment in Winpack and other industries, the outlook for industry in this south region is very strong going into the future. In order to serve that, there needs to be attention to infrastructure. I mentioned the rail and road access is currently cooperation with Cook County to make further improvements within the logistics center. And then commercial retail development. I just talked about the potential for a town center. When you look at national trends in retail, we all know that there's been shifts to online. In this area, people drive a few miles and might go over to Indiana where taxes are lower. So you really have to think about smart new development, and what people are looking for is a place to go that they can just go online and get that goods and services. So you have the land available in the location. It's really thinking about how do you plan that to really be a successful town center. And then the last one is really important. It's small businesses. People might be working out of their homes in a spare bedroom or in an attic, and really trying to work with them to open up shop in Sauk Village and really get people to small businesses to expand. And that might be just as much business services as it is retail stores. You're also well served by various different types of districts. You have TIF districts. You are part of an enterprise community, which means that there's essentially lower cost for construction by exempting sales tax for construction materials. And you have something new called an opportunity zone. So an opportunity zone is a new federal tax system. Essentially, what it does is allows investment of capital that's being repatriated from overseas to be invested and defer those taxes over time, and perhaps even forgive those taxes. It does not affect the village's taxes. It's only the federal taxes. And so only certain census tracts in Illinois have it. About half of Sauk Village was designated an opportunity zone. The nice thing about the program is that the developer or company doesn't have to apply to any program to take advantage of it. It is managed through the tax system itself, so there are no applications or bureaucratic hurdles in order to invest in an opportunity zone. This is brand new. All the rules even haven't been released yet. It was passed in 2017. They're still working on the rules, but you can really be at the vanguard of this new opportunity zone program. Some of the various projects I've already touched on, but clearly to continue the work of the village to work to attract additional businesses, particularly into the logistics center. I mentioned that there's already ongoing work to expand rail and road access to that industrial park, investing in infrastructure capacity, and supporting locally owned small businesses. In terms of transportation, part of our scope was to look particularly at 394 and Sauk Trail in terms of making both safety and capacity improvements. I'll show the diagram of that in a moment. Pedestrian crossing sidewalks. So there are many areas of the village that lack sidewalks. There's no sidewalks right around the corner here. And crosswalks at Torrance Avenue and Sauk Trail. There's minimal sidewalks over at Sauk Trail and I-394. And so really that takes capital planning over time to make those safety improvements. We're going to talk in a second about the importance of bicycle as well. You've got a lot of regional paths that aren't that far away, but there's no good way to ride your bike to those. And then for children and people of all ages to ride throughout the village now safely. And then adequate transit and alternative transportation. You do a PACE service. That PACE connects to metro stations, both west of you and north of you, and trying to coordinate with the existing fixed bus route system as well as various alternatives that PACE has for working with the village to meet your transportation needs. So this map shows just west of the village is the planned Metro Southeast service. So that is a long-term plan to expand Metro in that area. You can see these various shades of green are different ways to create more bike paths to connect the village to other regional assets going north up to Chicago and east Indiana and west to the southwest suburbs. This diagram shows Illinois 394 and Sauk Trail, and essentially what it's showing is that there's currently a multi-use path that is going in on the south side of Sauk Trail that will go over to the high school, Bloom Trail High School, to the west. And this plan recommends extending that to the east, and I'll talk in a minute about how to bring that down to 223rd Street, as well as make sidewalk improvements and pedestrian improvements to this intersection, and then to add a turn lane going from the west to the north. So if you're coming, if you're in a truck and coming out of the Logistics Center, so you'd be able to go east on Sauk Trail, and then turn left to go north on 394. There's currently one left turn lane. This shows expanding that to 2 lanes. It would not remove a through travel lane. So this is simply adding an additional left turn lane so that those cars and trucks don't have to continue to back up in traffic. At Torrance Avenue and Sauk Trail, essentially this doesn't talk about any lane changes to the roads. This is really about adding sidewalks and crosswalks. Almost every time I've gone by, I've seen people walking along the side of the road, particularly on the north side. There's a Walgreens there. There's no sidewalk. You see people walking through the dirt all the time there. We want to make that safe and attractive. I mentioned a minute ago, along 223rd Street, I'm sure you're all familiar, there's a median in the middle of the road. Kids play in that median. It's used a little bit, but it could really be an attractive resource to add a bike path right into that median. It can be done in an environmentally responsible way as well, by adding rain gardens and planters in order to allow the absorption of the water. So that could really be a way to raise property value in that area by having a really nice bikeway and not remove any parking or any lanes, because you already have the lane in the middle of the road. There are lights there that could be saved, and you could also maybe add some public art along that as well, and make a really attractive new investment across the southern portion of your village. I mentioned a minute ago about there are a number of regional paths that are several miles away from the village, and really trying to work with your neighbors in terms of connecting Sauk Village to the region's bike network. A lot of kids who grow up in Sauk Village are probably going off to college or moving to other areas. They get used to bike trails, and then they would come back here, and you're really disconnected right now. Young people really expect those bike trails to be in place. The good news is you are surrounded by trails, and with some minor modifications, you could be connected to those trails over time, and that would really get you anywhere in the Chicago region, and into northwest Indiana and over to Michigan as well. Continuing with the theme of open space and recreation, like I mentioned, improving connections to existing proposed open spaces and natural resources. And then really one of our tasks is to look at all the parks. You have a number of parks throughout every neighborhood of the village, but there really needs to be, what our task was to look at those and get community input on having maybe a different character to each one of those parks. And so it's great to have open space in neighborhoods, but how do you maintain them, go after grants, and fix those parks up over time? And so there are, this slide talks about 6 of those parks, from Arrowhead Park to Murphy Park, Veterans Park, the park in front of St. James Church. It's owned by the church, maintained by the village. And then Carroll Avenue also has a park. So each one of these in the plan has a slightly different vision in terms of making that park open space accessible and used more by the community. The more people use it, the safer it is, and the more people like to use it. Next chapter is community facility goals. We talked about expanding the municipal campus here. You've got the Ed Pazel Center next door. You've got the park behind us. The plan does call for an expansion of the park right next to our Veterans Park south to Sauk Trail. Public safety, we talked about the fire station, plan for the fire station to move north of Sauk Trail, as well as the need to either renovate or rebuild the police station next door here. The plan was very fortunate through CMAP, had a specific additional study for stormwater management. There was, I'll turn to that in just a moment, but it was really a great addition to have a very detailed analysis in this plan. We also talked about the importance of adequate supply of water and the desire of the community to over time move to Lake Michigan water. And finally, enhancing education technology for all stages of life. As you can see, this is truly a very comprehensive plan. So one of the ideas that came out of this plan is to look at the possibility for an attraction in the village to really get people to come to the village. It used to be retail would play that function, but increasingly these are community facilities that are attracting these kinds of uses. If you've ever been to the Kroc Center on the very far side of Chicago, you can see what an amenity that is. I think they have 1,200 people a day going through that facility. So we started to think about what are the sports people play in this area and what can attract people from around the community. And this is a plan. Again, it's just a concept, but right across the street, across Torrance Avenue, we've got lots of land there available, and that could be outdoor fields for soccer, lacrosse, baseball, other sports outdoors, as well as an indoor facility over time. This would probably need to be a public-private partnership. We've identified several grants in the plan, but it can also be a revenue generator. Because essentially what happens is that teams that need to practice will essentially rent out blocks of space over time. And that's how these are financed over time. Almost think of it like a hotel, that each field is reserved a certain amount of time, from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock to X, Y, and Z team. And that's how the revenues pay. People will drive 15 to 20 miles to go to a facility such as this. This drawing also shows a proposal for a new, I've been calling it conservation style development. So the idea is to have single-family homes or row homes along with preserved open space that can protect stormwater and natural resources in the area. And that's something that people like to, it's sort of like moving into a golf course community without the golf course. It's open space rather than a traditional golf course. Like I mentioned, CMAP was able to support a related study by a firm called Michael Baker that looked specifically at stormwater issues. You have not had a major flood in a very long time in the village, but you want to protect yourselves because it could happen at any time, because that's the nature of water. And so the colored areas on this map show where there's the greatest potential for need for stormwater improvements. And the plan shows specific ideas for ways to, say, partner with schools, to create rain gardens and other ways to store that water through what's called green infrastructure. Looking at residential areas that may experience some flooding in basements when there's a big rain, and looking for opportunities in the public right-of-way to add, again, bioswales, rain gardens. These are natural areas that are slightly depressed that will essentially help absorb the water during a major rain event so it does not go into the sewers or goes in very slowly. I mentioned before that drawing that you saw of the bikeway along 223rd Street, and I mentioned that could also be an opportunity to absorb water in that medium as well. Right now, grass. Grass is not particularly the best material. You really want to design in a way with the right types of plants to absorb that water that can be more attractive as well as absorb more water than turf on its own. And then this last one is really looking at using part of the park for detention, retention, as well as things can be done within the street right of way to absorb water as well. I mentioned a minute ago, we were aware that the village had a referendum a number of years ago with the desire to would want to move over to acquire Lake Michigan water. That does require a sizable capital investment. So the plan both recommends continuing to study that issue in terms of finding financial feasibility of accessing Lake Michigan water. At the same time, it's important to protect groundwater, whether or not the village continues to obtain well water or moves over to Lake Michigan water in both cases. We want to protect your groundwater. We can get into a longer discussion about that, but it's very important to plan both to protect the shallow and the long term, the deep aquifer, which really covers all of northern Illinois. What's really important for the village board and your partners is to look at the back of the plan, which is the implementation plan. Like I mentioned before, Maggie Jar from CMAP is now working with the village to help implement, work with the other staff of the village to help implement this plan. And throughout the back of the plan, there are very detailed charts that list every recommendation, every project that's in the plan, potential project partners, resources, and a ranking of short, medium, or long term. We also provided this to the village in an Excel spreadsheet so you can update that over time. We understand things change over time, and you really want to keep this updated on a regular basis, at least an annual basis. That concludes the presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the goal for this is tonight, I believe, is to put this on the agenda for the next village board meeting. Any questions?
Any other board members have a question? This will be on your, this will be in the agenda for next week to be voted on, so, you still, you know, right now, someone's here to answer the questions after you leave. I probably can answer some, but believe me.
I also want to introduce Abraham Lacey's here in the front from the Far South CDC who helped develop the economic development recommendations plan. He can answer questions as well.
Just real quick.
Abraham Lacey.
Just real quick, I passed out to all the board members a copy of the minutes from the zoning board, plan commission's public hearing that was held. The recommendation was to the village board for the comprehensive plan. It was approved unanimously for a recommendation for approval.
No question? I just want to say, it's been a pleasure working with you. You guys have came out mostly everything that we've had and gave the residents an opportunity. I saw some of the things that you put in this plan, some of the recommendations that I saw some of the residents had talked about, and so that was very interactive. And also, we're going to have this person for what, a year? 2 years to help us get funding for some of these short-term goals that we're going to be looking for. So that being said, again, thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. And quite naturally, we have questions. As things go on, we're going to have a person here anyway, so we will do that. And this will be on our agenda next week to be voted on. Our next item is our commercial insurance. It will be presented tonight. Mr. Taylor of Insure Source will be going over for our risk management insurance. Thank you. Yeah, you got to speak.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
That's
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Trustees, clerk, valued residents of Sauk Village. My name is Cliff Taylor, I'm with Insure Source, and I'm here and I'm pleased to present you with your 2019-2020 commercial insurance liability program. Let me first by apologizing for the date. It says 18 and 19, it should say 19 and 20, so I can apologize that on the first page there. With the renewal this year, we did some major comprehensive benefits analysis. Yes. Oh, you're wrong. So this year we did a comprehensive benefits analysis, and what we did is We met with various department heads throughout the village to make sure that all of our policies were updated, to make sure that everything is updated from our vehicles to our village-owned property and all of that, just to make sure that everything is up to date so that we are valued properly with the insurance carriers. So that is something that was done this year prior to renewal. If you turn to the executive summary, it talks about how we conducted and completed coverage and a marketing analysis on behalf of the village. We also reviewed the claims as well as structural changes in the policies in an effort to improve pricing. Our marketing efforts and what we do every year is we go out to the marketplace. And we go out to all the carriers that we're entertaining as municipalities. In the insurance market, when it comes to municipalities, you don't have a whole lot of carriers that insure municipalities. Like when auto and home, you can go to maybe 15 or 20 different carriers with municipalities. Just not that way. You have a handful. And usually most of those carriers are probably owned by 2 or 3 carriers. So it's a spider effect. One of the things that I was instructed to look at this year was to see if we could go back to a first dollar type plan. And first dollar meaning that you have coverage from your first dollar with a very small deductible, and from your insurance carrier with coverage. I think this plan was moved away from a first dollar plan some years, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe. And when we went out there, we just did not have any luck going to a first dollar plan. Most of it was based on some existing claims that they felt just needed to be cleaned up, and just to have a couple more years of good claims experience before they would get it. Any questions so far? If you go to Insure Source Risk Management Services, it just gives a brief overview of what everything we do, from our broker risk management, where we review departmental organizational structure and risk exposure, historical loss analysis and trending, identifying emerging markets. We do monitoring and support in Sauk Village. We help to improve the safety policies, procedures, initiatives, and training. We support the village's post-claim response and in-house claims monitoring. And I am available on hand, so if there's ever a need where I need to help with any administrative claims, I am here to get back up to the village to make sure that everything is submitted and done in a timely manner, and make sure that we are administering the claims properly. Go to the next page where it says marketing results. These are all the carriers that we went to that would entertain a submission from the from the village in terms of submitting a quote. If you look at all the carriers on the left side, lines of coverage in the middle, and then the response. The responses are either quoted, they've been quoted with a higher retention, some say decline. Now, a lot of times the carriers, what they do is from a marketing standpoint, they'll say decline, but it's not really that they declined it, they just couldn't be competitive. So as opposed to put their name out there and saying, I can't be competitive, they just decline, So it's more of a marketing thing than anything else. This next page is summary of large claims. So these are currently the large claims that were sitting out there. They had a very high exposure. If you look at the claims, the good thing is most of them are closed. The bad news is some of them went up dramatically over the last year in exposure. So if you look at where it says status reported by private broker, it shows the amount of the current totals, and it shows the changes since last year in the yellow. And it shows how the claims went up significantly by almost $950,000. Again, the good thing is most of those are closed, because we only have one open at this time. And a lot of those claims are older claims. So a lot of times with claims, there's a 3 to 5 years before they reach what they call maturity. And that's from where the claim, from its infancy stages, so it really gets to the nuts and bolts of what it's going to cost you. And, some of them did go up quite a bit, but the good thing is those were, some 4 or 5 years ago. They're starting to close out now, and that helps us as we move forward. The next page talks about the structure. And as you see, the structure right now is you currently have an SIR, which is called a self-insured retention. Another way you want to look at it is just a very high deductible. For the general liability, it's $100,000. Auto liability is $50,000. Public officials is $100,000. $25,000 for the property. For an earthquake and flood, $50,000. And then for your crime, it's $5,000. For pollution, it's $10,000. You have a total insured amount of $10 million. Your first layer is $5 million, then you have an excess company, which gives the additional $5 million. Okay, now we get into the actual lines of coverage. The first one we talk about is the property coverage. All policies, everything remaining the same except for the values did go up a little bit from about 14.8 to 14,800,000 to about 16,200,000. There was an increase from 29.5 to 34.2. Most of that increase was due to just market trend. You had a lot of how they look at things when it comes to insurance companies. They look at the national impact. You have a lot of claims. You have a lot of hurricanes, earthquakes, anything that happens with these carriers, because they insure all over the United States. They look at the market trend as a whole, and then they narrow it down by your state, maybe your county, and then what you're specifically doing in terms of claims. Most of this was market trend. The next page, this is your package. So this is your nuts and bolts of your plan. This is all your general liability, auto liability, your public officials liability, employment practice, sexual abuse, etc. This is where we had the largest increase, and that was due to those claims that we talked about. Now, we did look at some options here, which I will discuss when we get to the summary page. But again, we did have an increase here. Of course, increases are never good. The increase is somewhat minimal compared to the amount of money that the carrier has spent. Now, I went to the carrier, of course, as I always do, to see what type of relief we can get. We did get some relief, but the largest thing is, since Chubb has had this, they paid approximately about $1.1 million. We paid about $1.1 million. They paid out about $1.65 million. So it's just a matter of money in, money out. They paid out more than we paid in premium. Any questions about that? The next one is the crime coverage. It's very minimal coverage, and as you see, the premium's only about $4,600. Actually, it went down about $100 and pretty much stayed flat. The next one is your pollution. Again, that stayed, went up by approximately $500 from $8,200 to $8,700. The next one is your excess liability plan. That's the additional $5 million of coverage that we talked about, and you see those that premium stayed pretty much flat. The next one we talk about is cyber liability. When we did our benefits analysis, cyber liability was a coverage that we currently do not have. It's something that I highly recommend for the cost. As you guys know, internet theft, cyber liability is one of the largest crimes out in the United States. And the more and more as we move towards technology, a lot of stuff on the cloud, things of that nature, you're just that much more vulnerable. So it's a lot of coverage that you get for very minimal cost. It's something that we just highly recommend right now. I know you've heard some of the things that happened over the last couple of years with some of the communities in the South Suburban area where they had someone who hacked their system. They call it the phishing, and then they got in there and then did a demand for, give us a certain amount of money and we'll release all your documents. And some of the municipalities were so scared that they actually did it. So it is something to have. This helps in situations like that where it can actually pay the ransom for you or to help you do the investigation and try to find out who it is and help you with any recovery from costs associated. And their premium is only $5,100 for $1 million worth of coverage. The next page is premium summary. So as we go down, we look at all the lines of coverage that we just talked about. Your expiring premium is roughly around $331,719. Your renewal is roughly around $374,425. We were able to get some relief off of the TPA services. The TPA services were $20,000 a year. We was able to get that reduced to $18,000, which is a good thing because that means if that's going down, that means we're not using the TPA services as much, which means our claims are not as active and we don't have as many. So that's actually showing that we're moving in the right direction. And again, with some of the things that we're doing now, from an employment practices standpoint, there is putting a full-time dedicated HR person. I think there's been a change in chief of police, and there's been a change in the enhancing of police manuals and things of that nature. So all of that helps from a claim standpoint as we move forward because we're using the best practices of the day. Any questions about premium so far? Now, a couple of options that we looked at. We looked at how could we get the premium as close as possible to current premium. There is an option there where we could increase the SIR in order to get the premium down. Not something that I like to do, but again, we're talking about village dollars and what's best for the village. That's what we have to decide. If we were to increase the retention to by $50,000, so now they will be going from 100 to 150,000. That would reduce the premium down roughly where your renewal would stay almost flat or increase of right around $6,000. But again, that means you're responsible for, instead of $100,000 every claim, you're responsible for the first 150. So it's more exposure on the village. Another option we looked at is we currently don't have what they call auto physical damage for your vehicles. Meaning if all your vehicles are parked, you have a major storm come through, something happens, damages a bunch of your vehicles, the village is, Sauk Village is on the hook, pretty much. There is an option, but it's a very expensive option to cover those cars because chances are you won't have that problem. There is an option where you could put in a plan which will have a $25,000 deductible. Now, most of your cars will fall under that. I mean, if I increase car, they cost you right around $25,000. Most of your other cars, when you start getting into your more specialty public works trucks, fire engines, things of that nature, that's when that will come into play. So this was probably done in the past just to save money for the village. It's something that if you guys decide to do it, if you don't, I definitely understand because chances of all of your vehicles getting damaged at once is very slim, possibly definitely very slim. So just wanted to throw that out there because as we did an analysis, that's one of the things that we saw is that you guys did proper physical damage. So the nuts and bolts of it, if you make no changes, you're looking at roughly about a 12.8% increase in your overall premium. Any questions?
I do have one. Your total 374, is that with the cyber or without the cyber?
No, that's without the cyber. So with the cyber, you add an additional to 5,100. So now you're looking at right around 380. On the next page, it just talks about subjectives. So once we move forward with the renewal, this is signed documents and stuff like that, which that's why I work with the Maryland Department has to get all of that information. The rest just gives some legal language about what we do. And of course, we always like to put in our TIP, which is our trust, integrity, and professionalism. Those are qualities that you want from your broker, and those qualities that you'll always receive from myself, my whole team at InsureSource. This has definitely been an honor, working with this year, getting everything together for you guys, and working with the department heads. And you guys are definitely doing some great things and moving in the right direction and doing that. And increasing the safety culture amongst the employees, we're definitely moving in the right direction.
I do have the last infraction was 2016. So, is it usually 5 years, 3 years when you start seeing a change in premium?
Usually, as long as we stay, knock on wood, and going in the right direction, keeping the claims low, as new claims might arise, the biggest thing is closing them out as soon as we get a claim, we should be closing. And sometimes if they're considered what you call nuisance claims, where you really want to fight it because you know what it's really about, but at the end of the day, it's cheaper to sometimes sell it. You can sell it for $5,000 to $10,000 and get it out of the way, because not only does it, come off of your books quickly, it keeps your exposure down. Because it's easy for a $10,000 or $20,000 claim. It sits, the attorney fees, the ongoing, now it turns into a $40,000 or $50,000 for something you could have sold for 10 or 11 and got that headache away.
Are there any questions? This is going to be on the agenda next week to be voted on, so we can, as you see, the effective date is the 27th.
27th of 2019.
Oh, yeah.
So are we going with the, so we're going with the cyber option? Are we going with the package option 1 and auto review? Are we going to decide as a board or?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we vote on it next week, right?
Well, that's right now, if you're going to, if you have any changes or you want something, this is the time to
So we're going to vote with the recommended changes.
yeah, well, if you want to change the, as he was stating, the liability as far as $150,000. If you want to change that to make the premium go down, those would be some of the changes. If you want to do that, that would be something that we could, talk about now. If that's what you want to do.
I mean, I just want to talk about the 75,000 for the auto PD. I mean,
For the,
for the auto PD, so for the, if the, like you said, the vehicles, so happens to be damaged during a storm or something like that, for 75,000, I mean, chances are it might happen, it might not. But I mean, do we want to spend the extra 75 grand for that? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there as a board.
or you,
It's the
the
75,000.
auto physical damage?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
It is very slim chance of that happening, and again, the deductible will be 25,000. Probably most of your vehicles fall under that range for the most part. Like I said, you get into your public works trucks.
So you're saying if we were to keep it,
fire engines.
we were not to get this, or this, if we weren't to, that's right.
Right, so I mean, cyber, I think I think that's easy, I mean, rather, I think I remember seeing what happened with Atlanta last year, right, this whole city was on the attack, so.
Right. And how much is the auto physical damage?
It's an additional 75.
75.
What we did was, it would be changing your excess policy from Markel to Brit. So what we did is, we took Brit, and Brit is taking over the excess liability, pollution. We kind of did a bundled package to get the premium down. So basically, you'll be paying, the price for the Brit is $150,000, but once you put in the excess, the pollution, and all that, and bundle it in, there's about a $75,000 difference. So we were able to get some savings there, but it's still, again, that's an additional $75,000.
So explain to me, please, what package option 1 is that you're reducing that by almost $37,000. What comprises that dollar amount?
That's the one where we discussed where if we increase the self-insured retention. So if we went from $100,000 where we are now to $150,000 per claim, that would reduce the premium because we're just taking on more responsibility up front.
Okay, so that's under the package liability, that first number there?
Yes.
So instead of the $246,995, that would come down by that $37,000.
Exactly. That's right.
Any other questions?
But just to be clear, one claim, and we've blown that out of the water. So that's not really, yeah, so that's not really the route to go, in my opinion.
And again, I'm going to say this as a broker, a lot of times as a broker, of course you would say this, but once you start going on that downward spiral of increasing your SIR to save $40,000 here, $20,000 here, it's hard to go back. Because once these insurance companies got you where they want you, and you're paying most of your claims up front, why would they let you get off the hook? And that's on the health insurance side, that's how they work.
So it sounds like we're gonna go with the, everything for the renewal, and we're just adding cyber option, and that's it. Say again? Right, right, so we're just adding cyber, everything else, just renewal is based on the market trend.
And of course, every year we'll always look at that first dollar option to see if that's an option. It may cost a little bit more, but it doesn't hurt to go out there and look at it every year just to see, because that kind of gives us a gauge of how we're looking claims wise.
Could you use the mic, please? We can't hear you back there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said every year we will always look at the first insurance dollar option every year, because it kind of is a gauge. It gives us an idea of how we're looking from a claim standpoint. Once we just start getting actual quotes from the first dollar plan, that's when we're moving in the right direction from a claim standpoint.
Any other questions? Okay, this will be on the agenda next week. Approval, not approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. It's that time of the year to do abatements of our ordinances for our tax and general obligation bonds. Everyone have that piece of paper in front of them? Yeah. And the top three, those premiums are being paid through the TIF. So, you see how much they are? 2002 A and B bonds, $2 million, 2.3 million. The series 2008 bond, 672,000, and 2009 bond is 492,000. These are all in the TIF areas, and the TIF does pay the premium for those. The 2010, 2007A, 2007B, and 2007C are levied. So they're levied and they're paid by the taxpayer. So what we're looking at tonight is an ordinance to accept the ordinance to abate those bonds that we have here, the 2002A and B, 2008 and 2009. And the ordinance is right there in front of you. Any questions?
I just want to make it clear that the TIF has more than enough money in it to fund these bonds.
Yes.
Yeah, according to Joe, yes, we have more than enough money in the TIF.
Yes.
Give a copy of the, that shows the, balance on the TIF.
You can come in and ask for that, yes, ma'am. Come in tomorrow, what time? You can come in tomorrow, trustee, and ask for a copy of that. Someone will be here to take care of that for you tomorrow. You come in and get a copy. I don't, who's gonna email it to?
Whoever's gonna give you a copy.
No, I can give you, I haven't asked for a copy.
Whoever's gonna give you a copy, they can.
You can come in and see it, trustee.
I will sign it.
Oh, okay, well, I can't promise you that it'll be done tomorrow. I'm offering to you the rest of the week, you can come in and get a copy. I'm not gonna say that it'll happen tomorrow, but every day has its own time limit. But it is available, you can come in and see it. Okay, is there any other questions on the 2000, I'm sorry, on the tax abatement? Okay, that'll be on the agenda also next week. Next item is the code red.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packets.
Mike?
Yes.
In your packets, you should see a couple of documents relative to Sauk, which is really code red. I introduced this program to you about a month or so ago. Then we had a webinar concerning it, where we had a speaker who gave us a presentation and walked through it. What happened after that, he sent an agreement, and then we sent it to our attorneys for their review. The attorney then provided a summary of the agreement, and then he followed up with drafting the resolution that you see before you. So what I was hoping that you would have done when I sent it to you was just to really review the agreement to see if you were still in favor of what was discussed before, and then it would be my recommendation that it would go on the agenda for possible adoption or definitely a vote.
Any questions? Okay, any objections to put this on the,
Yes, I object. What are y'all talking about? This is such a mystery up there. What's the code red? Oh my God.
I'm sorry, you've been a little missing in action, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you've not really been here with us. But some of the May I, Mr. Mayor?
We will take care of that at the public comment.
Okay, we'll do that during public comment so that you can have a clearer understanding.
I just have a quick question on this. Where are the funds coming from in our budget? Will this be in our budget? This is like
It would have to be,
$3,000.
it would have to be.
It currently isn't, but it should be.
Or unless we wait until, next year's budget.
Okay.
And while I have the mic in my hand, if there are no other questions from trustees where this is concerned, I would like for you to keep that big hefty packet that you have in front of you for next week, rather than I spend $2,000 making some more copies of all of that packet that you have. If you would just keep that, I would appreciate it.
All right.
I just wanted to comment about a typo on the resolution at the very beginning of the resolution, where it says the village, whereas that very first in parentheses there, I think it's supposed to be quotes, and it's an A and an ampersand instead at the top there, that first paragraph. Yeah, see that?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, next item, ordinance amending Article 4, regulation by sign type, Chapter 58 of the Sign Municipal Code of the Village of Sauk Village. Trustee Todd and Mr. Whitmore. Okay.
Okay, so the library district is looking to put up an electrical display sign, very similar to what Wagner School did. And going through these processes, when they wrote the ordinance, a lot of the technologies didn't exist as good as they do now. So it just kind of makes it more difficult for, public bodies, the school boards, the library boards, church organizations and stuff like that to get information out to the public as well as the village, because the village would be prohibited from doing any kind of electronic sign as well to inform residents, what's going on in a quicker manner. So we have our old display sign up at Sauk Trail and Cornell. That was the technology back in 1992. Since that time, we've gotten electronic display signs. So prohibited in residential areas are electronic signs. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to amend the ordinance for the signs, particularly ground signs, as well as the electronic wall signs. So if you look at page 4 of your ordinance, proposed ordinance, the amendment is in the text of the residential districts. If you look in the 2 last columns, prohibited for electronic message signs, and it says underlined are the amendments, except for churches, public buildings, including but not limited to schools, libraries, and government buildings. So the village could put up an electronic display sign here. The library could put one on their building like they're proposing. Churches would also be able to do likewise as well. One of the challenges with that technology, especially when you're talking residential zones, is timing. Do you want your neighbors to have something flashing at 1:30 in the morning where it's causing a problem. So we may want to add language to the ordinance to where it has, from X time to X time. So that way it's not flashing all night. And, not that they're going to be flashing, but they're going to be scrolling and doing whatnot. So that might be some language that needs to be added to this ordinance. That's currently not in the ordinance. The ordinance review committee did look at it, and their recommendation was for, they were okay with the recommendations that were proposed here for the ground pole signs as well as the wall signs as well. So they're okay with the recommendations, but I think we may want to consider adding some language that has specific time restrictions as to when those can be on and functioning, so it doesn't disrupt the neighborhoods.
Any questions?
Any I'd just like to kind of see what the board thinks about the time restriction on that.
Yeah, personally, I think that's a good idea to put a time restriction in there before we would pass this. That's just me though. So well, I don't know if it necessarily needs to go back to the ordinance committee, or if we just want to add the additional time restriction for the electronic signs.
You would still have to take it back so they can look at, because you're going to change the ordinance, correct?
Well, all we're going to add is the language for the restriction of time. So I don't know if it necessarily has to go back before the ordinance committee, or if we just want to add the language and then have it before the board for next
You
week.
don't know what time.
Mics, please.
I mean, they're trying to find out so they can know the
So
right.
off at 10 p.m. and back on at 6 a.m. That seems to be fine.
I'll go ahead and have the attorney put that language in the ordinance, and then we can have this before the board for next week, because the library is waiting to get their sign up. So
Well,
they
that's
can hold
right.
off on the public hearings and all that.
Well, that's, will their sign be more or less like wagons on the building, or is it going to be in front?
Yeah, from the information that I understood from the sign company, that it's pretty much very similar to what Wagner has ours.
Because I saw one here that showed on the ground, so it was, just asking. So are they able to put this sign somewhere else on the ground, basically like page 3 says? Can that go on another commercial site, say for instance, another school, or even the village, right out here?
Yeah, so the village could put a ground monument sign up with a scroll or with a display as well. At the current time, the village doesn't have any legislation to authorize it to do so.
Okay. Any other questions? So what did you want
So I'm
to?
going to have the attorney add the language to this.
Okay.
So I'll send it to the attorney, and it will be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. off.
I mean, I'll ask the trustees, do you want this to be reintroduced, or are you good with what time that was brought up there now, from 6 to 10? Okay, 10 to 6.
One question. If there's a person in the office, can they put a scroll sign up like that?
No.
You said a good person, what?
Use the mic, please.
If there was a person running for office, can they put a scroll sign?
Oh,
No, the ordinance is very clear. This is for governmental buildings, which include, and also churches. So churches, schools, libraries, and government buildings.
Sorry, we didn't hear that question.
The question was with respect to any political candidates wanting to put up a scrolling sign in a residential area. That would still be prohibited under the ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else? So that means you're just, is everyone clear with what the ordinance is going to be? And we don't have to have it again? Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you'll get it before it's voted on. Okay. Yeah, you better still be voted on.
We're really not hearing you guys.
I was just really telling the clerk to add this to the agenda for next week, like we do all the time.
Yeah, but we don't know that's what you're saying.
And I hope to have a clean copy of the ordinance to the clerk no later than Friday morning, sorry. Friday morning.
The next item is,
Okay, so just so we're all clear, the board would like a clean copy of this particular
the next item, is that for you guys? Oh,
I want to table that ordinance till another time.
okay. All right, next item, public comment. Yes, I don't know if I need to read it again, but I will. All questions and comments must be directed to the mayor. Each speaker may comment on any matter pertaining to the business or village. Each speaker is allowed one opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not engage in debate, counter replies, or rebuttals. I will answer all questions at the end of the question or the public comment period. Please state your name when you come up.
Pat Couch.
In October of 2018, I asked about how many fire hydrants are not working in Sauk Village. To date, I've received no answer. The following week, after I asked about the fire hydrants, Trustee Todd asked again about how many fire hydrants are not working. And in conversing with her today, she's received no answer either. So I don't know what there is about the fire hydrants, why there's no list to show the residents where these fire hydrants are not working or why they're not working. We'd like some answers. And as of today, I have not received an answer to 3 FOIAs that I placed on March 8th, and as of today, still no answers. So I don't know what the problem is with getting our FOIAs answered. The problem with our police department not having enough officers, we had 2 shootings last night. The first one was around 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. between there on Sauk Trail near 394. Someone was injured, went to the hospital, and within another half hour, that same car that they were looking for happened to be on 223rd Street. So I don't know how you're coming along with finding these officers and getting extra help for our police department, but I think it should be speeded up somewhat. We are in dire need before these people keep shooting up our streets, and these officers need help. Thank you.
Kathy Betcher. Marva, thank you for bringing up the code red again, because that was one of my questions, so I don't have to go through that today. I'd also like to say thank you for having the comprehensive plan, because that was another one of my questions today. So now we're going to go into, I'd like to know, are we going to get any businesses in the village that will attract families, that will make them want to come here and make this their home, instead of all gambling parlors and now evidently a tattoo parlor. We need something a little more family-oriented in this village in order to help it grow into a family-oriented place to live. And finally, I've been sitting on this for quite a while, and after last week's episode, I need to say this. We have trustees that sit on this board, and they continue to say, no report, no report. They have no committees, they do nothing with their committees, but yet we pay them their stipend to sit there. Now, whether they're there and you haven't asked them to step down, or you appointed them for whatever reason, we, the residents, should not be subject to a hearing this week. And we should not have to pay our trustees to sit there for their dignity, or just because they shake their head yes or no to whatever you have to say. I'm sorry, but this board is supposed to work for the village, work for the people. They're supposed to be working together, and instead they're fighting. Sad.
I'm good at this, so, can you guys hear me?
No.
Tracy Witt. I have a comment or questions about my water bill. Saturday we were doing our bills at home, and I realized that we haven't paid a water bill in a while. So I looked back at my checkbook, and the last one I paid was December 16th. I never received a water bill in February. So Saturday, obviously, the village hall was closed, so I came Monday after work yesterday, and I asked the girl at the counter, when was I going to receive a water bill, because I had heard that the water bills were the dates were being changed or something, or when they were sent out. She said my water bill was due in February, $171. I asked her if there was a late fee on that. She got up, walked in the back, and came back, and she's looking at the screen. I don't know why she couldn't see whether it's a late fee or not. But anyhow, I said, well, I don't see why I would have to pay a late fee. I didn't receive the water bill. I didn't receive a second notice if they sent one out. I'm a 25-year resident. I've never paid a water bill late. And I'm not trying to look for some special privilege or a pass or anything, but it seems kind of odd why I wouldn't get 2 water notices. She wanted to blame it on the post office, so I came back today. Oh, she also said someone would contact me. I wrote my name and number down. She said Cindy would contact me yesterday. I haven't received a call yet today. Okay, so today I come back up here to pay my water bill minus the late fee. And the other young lady, she had taken care of me this morning, and she told me that it was sent out. The late notice was sent out. I never received either one of them in the mail. And I said, that was kind of odd again. And she said, well, we hand deliver the bulk postage to the post office. It's the post office's problem. And I said, I don't buy that. I'm sorry, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that probably had this problem. And I know it's only $15, but it's a principle. And I haven't received a call back from the village about it. So I would like an answer. I paid my water bill, minus the late fee though. And by the way, the lady that I dealt with today has really bad customer service. And I was the only one there today.
Heidi Parker. I would like kind of to hook into the last comment here. And I got my water bill this month. There was a notice on there that starting in June, I believe it said, there will no longer be any shut-off notices sent. And I wonder if the board voted on that. And if that's really good for the residents, not to get a shut-off notice, just to have the water shut off. They don't get the bill, all of a sudden the water's not there. What we would like to talk about is Sauk Talk. Trustee Supam on Sunday mentioned that she's working on the Sauk Talk, but because the election campaign, she had to put the next issue on the back burner. Since you became mayor, only one issue has been published, and pretty much propaganda for you and your trustees. For an administration and a trustee who for the past 2 years have talked about open communications with the residents, I find this inexcusable. The last issue of the Sauk Talk prior to an election has traditionally showcased the bios of all the candidates running for office. This project should have taken priority over campaign activities and should have been mailed to every household. Mr. Mayor, you have benefited from this in the past several times. Why are you denying this to other people? The other issue I have is about the police and the shootings. You keep saying it doesn't matter how many police there are, shootings are going to happen. Contrary to your current statement, visibility of officers does deter this kind of activity. I give kudos to Jane Byrne when she moved into a high crime area to show that she could live there. Maybe you want to move your family to the center of town here so you can experience and they can experience what other residents go through. Maybe then you would agree that we need more officers and they need to be visible and they need to patrol the neighborhoods.
Good evening, Debbie Williams. 3 minutes isn't enough tonight, but I'm going to get in what I can. First of all, great comprehensive plan. I'm really excited about it. However, catchphrases, invest in, support, plan for, improve, can add, create, upgrade, redesign, all that takes money. I've seen a lot of plans come through this village hall. The problem is feasibility studies cost money. Engineering studies cost money, such as when we did the Lake Michigan water supply, how we were going to get Lake Michigan water. We spent millions, thousands, hundreds of dollars, hundreds of dollars on how we were going to get Lake Michigan water. What's happening with that? It's not even happening anymore. How much money did we spend on feasibility and engineering studies about Lake Michigan water? And all the money we spent on that plan's not even on the website anymore. Why? People want to know. We're being told by somebody that we're still working on Lake Michigan water. I haven't seen any new reports on Lake Michigan water, any feasibility studies, any engineering studies since 2015. So, to me, I think Lake Michigan water is off the table. Matter of fact, it's been removed from the website. Also, I'd like to see a copy of the 1999 comprehensive plan. I understand the village does one every 20 years. The problem is, rather than concentrating on Sauk Trail from Torrance to 394, I've done a lot of walking in Sauk Village in the last couple of weeks. We got a lot of work to do. We got vacant homes, we got burned out homes, we got sidewalks, we got streets you can't even walk on. I think we need to concentrate on the homes and the roads instead of worrying about what it's gonna look like from here to there. I know it's a 20-year plan, but it all comes down to money. Where are we gonna get the money? And if we have any money at all, without putting all these bonds out for our residents to have to pay, where are we gonna get the money to do what needs to be done to fix from here to there when we got all this? And it's pretty bad out there. I don't know if you've ever driven around lately, but I mean, burned out homes. I got a couple on my block, vacant homes. We need to find ways to fix that stuff up too. That's kind of my situation where I'm at. And also, I'd like to talk about the sign. Yes, the library is anticipating getting a sign, and I kind of agree with the time frame, but my question is, when Blossoms got their sign, were they aware that there may be a time difference? I don't know if theirs is 24 hours. They may have to redo or whatever they've done in order to change that time difference. I have no problem with the time difference because there are houses right across the street that may be affected by that. And the shut-off notices, I had the same question that the prior resident did. So what does that mean? It was kind of ambiguous. So there are not going to be any disconnect notices after July. Does that mean we won't be getting the card in the mail anymore that says we're late? I know residents should automatically know that they haven't paid their bill, and they should automatically know when they don't pay their bill, the water's going to get cut off. But many residents have come to expect that red card. So if you're not going to get it in the mail, I think more than a sentence, I think a letter should go out explaining what's going to be done in the future. Thank you.
Mary Escobedo, I'm gonna skip social media just for one night, and I'll be back next week with that. But I do want to talk about, I know Debbie Williams said that she had mentioned coming to the finance meeting, and she was told they've been looking for volunteers for 2 years, which we know that's a lie because Roderick had said he wanted minimum people in there. So there was only 3 people in the finance committee meeting. So, and it's really ironic that when Debbie Williams said she wanted to join and put in her letter, all of a sudden there were many people that wanted to join. Don't you think that's a little funny? And then I want to talk about, you keep saying that there's no money in the budget for the police and all this other stuff, but people have been coming up here talking to you and telling you about the crime, and when David Hance was mayor, Joe Rizzotti was out there talking about all the crime that was out there. But it seems to me like there's more crime now that you're mayor, and I don't hear Joe Rizzotti saying anything about that. But, so why don't you have money to hire police officers to protect the residents, but you have money to hire secretaries? Now, when I was a secretary or executive assistant, we had 10 to 15 people that we worked for. So how do you need so many secretaries in here to work for a couple of people? They sound a little incompetent. And I can prove that too. But I'll be talking about that soon. Thank you. That's all I have for today.
Rachel Eastman. So I wanted to talk about possibly having a Mommy and Me program at the recreation center, maybe every other Saturday or at least one Saturday a month or something where parents aren't at work and it's like after 5 o'clock if they work on the weekday, or it's a Saturday, so I'm flexible. But I would really enjoy doing a Mommy and Me, and I know Blossoms is around, but Blossoms is only during the morning time, and a lot of moms have to work. If they're single moms, they have to do stuff. So I would like to possibly do it after maybe 6 p.m., maybe 6:30 to 7:30, or 6:30 to 8, one day a week, or a Saturday in the afternoon so that parents can come, moms and dads. So I would like to possibly talk about doing that. So that'd be really cool. And I would just need the say-so from whomever, and then whatever criteria you need for me, the background check, the mandated report, because I am a mandated reporter, I do have my food handler, so all that information I can get to you guys. So just let me know. I do plan on serving like refreshments. But that is all, whomever I talk to, so just let me know. And if you guys are okay with it, I would really love to do a mommy and me, daddy and me thing. So thank you.
Bernadine Hopkins. Okay. Well, what I'd like to know is this, on here, where you're saying you have an ordinance abating taxes or general obligation tax, whatever it is. What is the alternate revenue source for? I see for each one of these, you're saying it's being abated, and it also includes the alternate revenue source comment. I want to know what that alternate revenue source will be used for. The other thing, I'm not clear on that ordinance amending chapter 2. I don't know what you're amending, so could you give me clarity on that? That's all I have for that. But what I wanted to say was this, whether I was missing in action or not, yeah, I'm talking to you. Whether I was missing in action or not, here's the thing. If you're preparing to vote on this next week or whatever, then it's still something that's on the table. I didn't see any clarity when you were presenting it. You all were acting like it was some secret. Now, if I had just moved here 2 weeks ago, I'm not entitled to an understanding of what's going on. So why don't, not one trustee bothered to try to explain it, and you wasted my time with nonsense. Excuse me. Well, anyway, so the point is that code red, whatever, that's all I wanted to do was understand it. That would have took you maybe 2 minutes to just clarify, but not one of you all bothered to explain it to me, as though I guess my concerns didn't matter, or maybe you don't know. But anyway, that bobblehead thing that they were saying before, whew, I think I understand.
Daniel Stevens. Good evening, everyone. About a month and a half ago, I submitted a program for fitness, motivation, and life coaching program. I understand the necessity to vet the people who are going to do these programs, and yet some of these people do have backgrounds. But based on their background, it should be considered on what it was. And sometimes those backgrounds can be life lessons for the youth that are coming up, so they don't make the same mistakes that the people that are teaching the programs can teach those ideals and how to steer away from the problems that they did. Now, we are talking about shootings in the village. I don't know the age range of them, but we have to change the mentality from the inside out. And sometimes the people who walk the bad path can teach a more straight path. And that's all I have.
Okay. Dealing with the police officers and the police hiring, as I stated before, is not a one night or 1 month thing that we have to do. We're trying to do it as quick as possible, but it still takes time. And yes, there are going to be officers that are going to be hired, and it takes a little time. It's not overnight, but the police chief is working as diligently as he can, but he has to go through certain due diligence to make sure that that whoever it is that they hired or whatever has done their job. Some of them may have to go to the academy, but right now those things are in place. So as soon as that happens, we will have more police officers on the street. I would think all businesses would attract families, but it's far. Okay, I'll tell you this. if I'm trying to answer and I'm not allowed to try to give the answers, I won't comment on the question. Because I listen to each and every person. I didn't say a word. I did not comment, make gestures, or mumble when everyone came up here and spoke. I wrote everything down. But if it's not going to be adhered to when I'm trying to answer the question, I won't answer. So that means the person that tried to ask the question won't get an answer. I'll answer that person after the meeting is over with. I'll do that. I'll answer those questions after the meeting's over. Yes, it is. I understand that you get frustrated. I get frustrated, but I have to deal with it. So I'm asking for the same respect I give you when you stand up there and make those comments, accusations, and whatever else you made. I didn't say a word, just wrote them down. That's all I'm asking. We're trying to get all type of businesses in the village. If you know of a business that wants to come in, please let us know. Please come up to the village hall and say, I got a contact number. This person wants to open up whatever in the village. There's nothing wrong with that. But yes, we're out there constantly. We got different sources that we go to ask and see if we can get the businesses in the village. So it has nothing to do with we're not trying. Every community is trying to get businesses in their village. I'm sure there's nobody that turns down, but now there are some things that some villages do turn down, and some things that I would recommend if we have someone to come in and ask for that we would turn down, depending on what it is. But right now, I don't see anybody knocking at the door except the ones that we have coming in right now. As far as the water bill, I cannot speak intelligently and tell you why you didn't get your water bill. If I said something, if I even told you a reason, I would be lying. Because I don't know why your particular bill or a particular bill didn't go. I know they're all mailed. That's the only thing I can tell you, that the bills are mailed out. If you didn't get your water bill, I mean, I do, and I'm sure a lot of people here do. If you didn't get your water bill, you know that water's not free, so I would come up to the village and say, hey, I didn't get my water bill last month. What is it? How much is it? But to sit at home and didn't get it and then come back and say that, you know, that they're going to cut my water off. I mean, if you've been out here 20 years, you know you get a bill every other month. And you know that it comes around the first of the month. So if you know you didn't pay last month because you paid the month before, then the following month, what's wrong with coming up? But as far as the not giving late notices, this one is going to be on the bill. When the bill that you're going to get is going to be a paper bill. We're going to start paper billing. We'll save a lot of problems. And that will, on that bill, will tell you what date your water will be cut off, instead of sending an extra notice, an extra notice, an extra notice. Because then, as you just got to saying, I didn't get my bill, I didn't get the late notice. When you knew your bill was due, you didn't get the late notice, so that doesn't excuse you from not paying. So you will get one bill, it will be a paper bill. And on that paper bill will be self-explanatory to tell you when and what date your water will be cut off, and at what date your water will be late. And this is basically what you have there now, but you just won't get 2 bills, 3 bills, or whatever. And also, you're going to be given a shut-off notice. Now, I don't know why you stopped at the part that says you're going to get we won't get a late notice, but it does tell you when your bill or when your notice of shutting it off will be mailed out to you. So that'll be mailed out also. Yes, you will get a shut-off notice, but that'll be after your bill is late. We just let you know that we're going to shut you off whatever day it may be.
I didn't get either one of them.
Okay. One more time, I'm just trying to explain. You will get on your bill will show when your water's going to be shut off. And then you will receive a shut-off notification that your water will be shut off in this day. Yes, sir. Now, this is our...
I'm going to address, those that don't know me, I'm the interim finance director, and those that got their water bill that said, come July, I think it is, that you will not have a shut-off notice. One of the problems that we're having is that people get their postcard, and then you have those excuses, or people actually legitimately do not get them because they lose it in the mail because it is so big. And if you get your regular Comcast bill, your cable bill, whatever, it's big envelopes. So what we're doing for two reasons. One, we're going to go to envelopes, and the envelope's going to say water bill enclosed in big bold letters so you can see that. That'll probably take effect around July and August. In July and August, in your water bill, as Mary explained, we're trying to be back up to. One of the problems that has happened since I've been here, most people are not consistently getting their water cut off. If water does not get cut off, you don't get water revenue. You don't get water revenue, you can't pay for the projects that you guys asked about, how things will get funded. Money, the thing, and I'm saying this because I'm not a politician, as I said before, municipalities cannot go out like Ford and make cars. Their money comes from property taxes and water revenue. Simple as that. It comes from the state. You guys have been watching the state the last couple of years. Governor Ryan cut back on how much money he was giving to municipalities. So with that being said, the challenge is how do villages consistently have money flow? There are certain bills that due every month regardless. There's payroll, there's certain insurance, as the gentleman spoke about earlier. So one of my tasks that I've done in other municipalities is find out how does the water bill flow. In Sauk Village, it has not been flowing consistently, i.e. via short off, via people paying on time. You guys can look, you guys seem very astute with what's going on in the village. You can ask your neighbors, how many months have you gone by without paying your water bill and nothing happened? That has happened, and from my research and looking at the situation, it has happened repeatedly. So what I proposed to the mayor was, go like I did in Markham, in Linwood, villages. Put a letter together, like your regular utility bills. It's going to be multicolors, so you can have clear language on it. It's going to say your bill, and I asked the public works director, pick a date, because I don't care what day you want as far as the due date. Right now, the due date probably be like the 15th, which is what it is now. If it's due the 15th, you have until like the 21st of the next month to pay that water bill before you get shut off. So if it's due the 15th, you're going to get your bill around no later than the 5th of the month. So you have from the 5th of the month, let's say, to the 15th of due date. Then you have from the 15th to the very next month, the 21st, to pay your water bill. That's well over 30 days. When we make this first switch in July and August, those subsequent months, we're going to send an additional letter with this cost that's going to be past due. So you get a past due in July, you get past due in August. By then, from now to August, the notice will be going out that no more past due water bills will be coming out. So come September, we're just doing one bill that have everything in it. The advantage of that is, the young lady that does that now, she spends 2 days a month to send out and mail out water bill. She literally has to take a water bill, rip it in half, and on a 4x4 sheet, rip it, stuff it in a box, take them over to the post office. It is true that Chicago Heights Post Office do lose mail because they put it in a box, so that happens. But to analyze things, 2 days of her time ripping the bills up is not effective use of time. It's not effective use. She's not able to answer phone calls. She's not able to address anybody's concerns when they come to the window because she's in the back trying to get these 2,000, 3,000 bills out in a timely manner. So that's why we switch it. The other reason we switch it, benefit is cost saving. When you go to the envelope, it's probably going to cost like $300, $350 to do the envelope. It's a simple process, and then all you pay for postage, which we pay for postage regardless whether you do a letter or you do a postcard. But the advantage that you have, you can put additional information in those envelopes. So like when they have the young lady talking about the mommy and me thing, you can put that in an envelope and it does not cost the village any more money. So it's another form of advertising you guys mentioned about, and I don't know because I'm not from Sauk Village, but the Sauk Times, I think, whatever. The mayor can put, and the trustees can put letters in the water bill to give you guys updated information. That does not cost more. If you do it now, that's going to cost you anywhere from 49 to 50 some cents for a mailing to every household. So there's a lot of advantages doing it. But the point of the message is, eventually we're going to wean away from the postcard to make it more feasible so that you guys get something timely, recognizable, and then hopefully we won't have to worry about shut off. But that's how we go. I've always been an opponent that I'm not trying to get people shut off. I'm trying to get you paid sooner because now we have more options to do things with money because everything at the end of the day costs money. So that's all I want to say, just to kind of clarify.
Thank you.
Yes.
The person up front, if there's, I'm sorry, there was a person said that someone, Cindy's not here anymore, so the lady up front that's in charge of water is Cynthia. So I don't know if that was the case, but if you have a problem with whatever, you know, you said that, someone said that the person up front was short with them and whatever, I said this last week, ask for an envelope, put my name on it, seal it, and have it put it in my box. If you have a problem with someone that's up there, and I said that before. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but let me know. I need to know. I need to know who it is and what it is, kind of problem that you had. I will address that. The comprehensive plan, the water, Lake Michigan water. Trustee Brewer was on that committee to compile different information to move forward with that. So that's ongoing. The comprehensive plan was a year in the making, and yes, do we have money to do all those things? No, we don't. We have a person here Monday and Tuesday that's here, and that came with the plan, that came with the grant, that's trying to get grants for us to get some of these short-term items that were on there funded. So hopefully we can get some of that funded. The person for the program for the Mommy and Me, so, is she here?
She had to go.
Okay. I'll get in touch with her. I will talk to whoever it was that took the background for the person that was asked about that, and I'll find out what happened with that. I do remember asking to bring that program in, and I'm sure that when you deal with kids, we have to go through a background check. That's the village, so I can't supersede that, but I will find out what happened with that. And that's the code red. The code red is a program that's going to be, information is going to be able to be disseminated through different departments to a central location, and that's something that's been talked about for quite a while. It's a subscription program that doesn't cost the village anything. I'm talking about it doesn't cost the residents anything. We pay. You subscribe to it, but you have to subscribe. You have to put your information in and subscribe to that. That's what I mean by subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything as the village is paying. So, if you're not going to be long.
I promise you I won't be long. It's a notification system. It's called Code Red, and it is web-based, and we would be asking for everyone's phone number and or email address. If there is an emergency occurring in the village, we can then go to that site, enter that information, and notify residents that there is an emergency. So it's an emergency notification system.
But you have to subscribe to it. You have to, as a resident, have to subscribe. We can't do that for you. You have to actually go online. You'll be given all that information, and you have to actually sign up for it.
One question. The information that's the emails and phone numbers that are given, does that information go anywhere else but the village?
It does not even come to the village.
No.
It goes to the company.
Okay. Right, does it go on a list or anything else? Robocalls?
We will not have access to that. They have the database. We enter whatever the emergency, water main break, whatever it is, into their system, and they shoot it out.
The first question, the fire hydrant non-working list. I thought that person got that. I will find out what happened. Which fire hydrants are not working and where they're located. I don't know about location. I guess they would have to be location. So I'll find out our last public works for that list. And that's it. I'm not, yes, ma'am. Oh, the Mommy and Me program? I mean, first of all, I would have to see what it entails, what goes on, what is it going to be. I just don't want something thrown at. Who's going to supervise it? How's it going to be ran? And is there any liability that the village will be liable for, so I can see exactly what goes on with that particular program? Because when you involve kids, you have to make sure. You know, just like when you play basketball in the gym, we have waivers that they sign. They used to, and because of that, not saying that it's going to stop everything, but at least we have something in writing to say that you play at your own risk. So yes, I have to make sure that everything is. This is a municipality. I don't want someone, getting hurt and we're not covered. That being said,
No, alternate revenue source. You didn't answer my question. I forget. Alternate revenue source. You was going to explain that.
Bernadine.
You said you answered them at the end. You skipped that.
Ms. Hopkins, I've asked many times to not do what you just did.
But you missed
I
my
understand
question.
that, ma'am, but that's not fair for everybody else because no one else can do the same thing.
You missed
Then no one else goes back and forth.
You missed my question. Skip questions.
Okay, alternative revenue source. I thought I said that.
No, sir.
Okay, I thought it was presented when we did the presentation. There is no money, the village has to levy for those bonds that says there's no alternative revenue source. The other bonds that you see that are on there, there is a revenue source, and that revenue source is the TIF district. The top three are 2002, 2008, 2009 bonds are being paid for by the TIF. So they're in the TIF area, those bonds are written for that. The rest of the bonds are different bonds, cash, working cash bonds, and everything. Those bonds are paid for by the village. What happened when that bond was taken out back in that time, they had a source. They wouldn't have done, but that source has since dried up. So when you don't pay for a bond, who does it go to? It goes to the residents. If it's not in the area where it's automatically being paid for, you have to watch who's going to be paying for certain bonds when you write bonds. So these particular 4 bonds that are there, there's no alternative revenue source, so it defaults back to the village, and the residents have to pay, and it's paid through taxes because you're levied for it. This was an alternative, no alternative source when we had this building here because the residents paid the bond payment for this building. It since has been paid off, it got paid off in December. But it was everyone that has a tax bill was paying for this building's bond to pay it off. So that's why you have to make sure when you write bonds or whatever, that there is a source for it. It started out being that they had a place, there was, I think it was 2 years after the building was built, there was money for impact fee was coming in because things were being built in other areas. But since then, it was only 2 years, and after that, quite naturally, the bondholder wants their money, so you have to levy, they levy the town. It's automatically done, that's what agreement that you make. Okay, we'll go with the comments and questions from the trustees. Trustee Tate, Trustee Gray.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. Tomorrow, Budget and Finance Committee meeting at 7 o'clock here in the Rotunda. My second comment is I want to say thank you to the interim finance director. So today in our mailboxes, we did receive a preliminary accounts payable. Basically, we got the accounts payable for next Tuesday's meeting that we'll vote on. He wanted to get it to us early so that way we can kind of look it over, ask questions between now and Friday and Monday if we need to. So I think that's great that we get that out, a week earlier now. And that's all that I have.
Next public safety meeting will be Wednesday, April 3rd at 6 p.m. here in the Rotunda.
to have clarity on the issues of public service. Last week, I asked Kevin Weller for some information and updates on fire hydrants. The last update I got was like March of 2018. Kevin is busy, and I haven't got any reports for him since then. I asked in meetings, at the board, at committee meetings, and I still haven't got any information. And we're just waiting for him to supply me with the number of street lights that's out, the number of fire hydrants that's out. In fact, I know the high fire hydrants are out, 83 of them back in March, but I have no idea what's going on with it now. Because we don't get updates, at least I don't. And, I'm sorry, what? And we talking about water main breaks, street lights, all that sort of stuff is something we should be getting monthly, but of course, I don't get them. Another thing is that I've been sick lately, and I've asked Mr. Finch for some documents we haven't been able to connect yet. But eventually, I'm going to get to it because, as I understand it, we don't have information to make an informed decision anyway, so I don't know what the hurry is. We just don't get any reports. So, with that being said, that's the end of my report.
Trustee Todd.
Ordinance review will have their next committee meeting, April 8th, here in the Rotunda at 6 p.m. And I just have a comment. I started looking at my sewer bill, and they somehow changed when I get it. So I don't know what's happened with the system. But when a resident comes up and says she did not, if you have a long-term resident, I don't know about you, but there was one time I missed my garbage bill because I wasn't, who knows what's going on. I think the thing that really triggered it with me is when she came up here and the girl could not tell her whether she had a late payment charge. I'm sure it's right on the screen. Comes back again today and she's treated rudely. I have an issue with that. No matter if she got it, whatever happened, you don't know what happens in a resident's life, what's going on. And when you make the statement that you know you get your bill every 2 months, things happen and something gets missed. She all of a sudden realized she didn't have it. And we know we have issues with this water billing where they've had to extend the date. People didn't get them in March because they should be mailed up in 1st, 2nd, whatever the date is. So I know that they've extended the due date when they're due. I happen to look at my sewer bill, somehow it got changed. So has it been have we notified the people that get sewer bills that, hey, we've changed when you get your bill? I just happen to see it. So if there's issues going on, and we know that certain things are being done, especially with upgrading the system, she paid her water bill minus the late payment charge. My suggestion is, Mr. Finch is the person you're probably going to want to see. That would be the person that could explain your water bill. That's the issue that I have. So I need to check out with my sewer bill, did they change it? Did they change when I receive it? And I know this took place when I talked to the previous finance director, and she said, we looked at your address and said, wait, why are you getting billed with the north side? And changed it, I think, to the south side. So people on the south side that get the sewer bill are probably not even aware that they haven't gotten that sewer bill yet, because I've not received mine for March, because it got changed. So while we're going through this transition, I think we need to have a little leeway. We need to look at our residents who have never missed never missed their water bill, and we're having issues with them. I think you need to take a quick look at it. As far as the front desk, I feel your pain because I've had a lot of complaints.
I'm missing the smiley faces. They're not very friendly anymore.
That's my comment.
Before we go any further, I'll ask again. If you have a problem with a person in the front desk, please ask for an envelope, piece of paper, write down what it is, who it is, have them sealed. seal the envelope, and have them put it in my box. This way, if I open it up and it's been opened already, I know something's wrong. So make sure you seal the envelope and put it in, have that person put it in my box. So I can have things, I need to have things in writing now.
So in other words, when I come to talk to you,
Because I've come to you with this. I get a lot of phone calls from residents that are very upset about how they're being treated.
Okay.
And I came to you with that.
And
So now you want me to put it in an envelope?
When you came to me, I've addressed that issue at that time. So I'm saying I'm not gonna do the personnel right here because it's not appropriate. But if there is a problem, I'm just asking to put it in writing so I can have something to say rather than he say, she say. I have something to say. Your problem, I did address.
Okay.
So, but I'm asking anyone that has a problem, please put it in, and put it in writing, put it in my box, and I will address it. And I have something concrete to talk
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Second.
It was moved by trustee Brewer, second by trustee Carter. All in favor?
Aye.